Woke up in a world gone silent. Metal soldiers, faces violent. In the night they start to hum. Optimus, new kingdom come. Eyes of steel, hearts unsealed. Through the fog, their truth is healing. Marching on, no soul to find. Elon Street and circuits lined. Optimus, the future's bright. Steel and wiring, darkest night. Whispered code to keep us near. In their shadow, breathe your fear. Concrete jungle, cities quaking. Every step, the ground is shaking. Human dreams now made of rust. In their grip, who can we trust? Binary nights, sun cold. Stories told of times of old. Now we dance with metal kings. Future made of broken strings. Optimus, the future's bright. Steel and wiring, darkest night. Whispered code to keep us near. In their stream and circuits lined. In their stream and circuits lined.
Good evening, everyone. How are you today? This lovely Sunday. At least it's not snowing up here today. Has been wet though. I'm not going to go into the wetness. Oh, good grief. Good evening, Julie, Jedi. How you doing, guys? Hi, Ray. Nice to see you in the chat room. I just had a spat with Johnny Vedmore about, well, Jedi, how you doing, guys? Right, let's fix that. I didn't have a spat with Johnny Vedmore. He said that Cardiff was the wettest city in the UK, and my sources tell me it's not, but, you know, interweb sources vary. But, yeah. Now, how do I get to the chat of my Twitter stream? Because I had it last time, but I don't think I've got it this time. So bear with me a second. Let me see what's happening here. Ah, right, okay. Right, that's it. Right, I think I've got the chat now. Yes, I do. I can pop the chat out. Right, excuse me. Sorry about that. I'm still learning Twitter. Or should I should say X, but I can't. You know, it's been Twitter for so long. When you've used it since 2009. And I know that's not what my account says. But let's not get into that. Right. So we're going to talk about Elon Musk tonight and his various concerns. And when I say concerns, I mean his companies. And I suppose some of his concerns on his thoughts. Hi, Beats and Tapes, how you doing? So it appears to have upset Amy as well. Now, I can only assume it was the fact that I said all Americans are actors, but it wasn't directed at her. It was a generalisation and an observation. I'm not going to change my mind though, but they are. and if anything, that kind of proves it. But she'll definitely not come back now. Yeah. Hi Robin, how you doing? Good to see you guys. Oh, people are piling in. This is actually, well, you're not piling in, but the people are arriving, which is nice for a Sunday because normally Sunday's quite a dull day and I don't normally broadcast, but I thought, you know what, I'll give it a shot. So different camera, more lighting. I think it helps. I don't look as washed out as I did the last time. Very similar camera, but slightly different. So, no chat on Twitter by the looks of things. But hey ho, or whatever you want to call it what you will. That's one of the other things. I did ask Elon. Well, I didn't ask him. I did say that if he wished to come along, since I was going to be talking about him, he could feel free. Somehow, I don't think he will. Anyway, right. Let's start with Elon. So, where did he start? So, if you think about it, he started way back with PayPal, and he describes himself as a co-founder. I think that's a stretch. I think what we will find out though, Elon is a little bit of an embellisher when it comes to his career, and that's not to denigrate him. You know, it's just he does like to big himself up a little bit. So I don't think he was, strictly speaking, a co-founder of PayPal, but he jumped on board pretty soon after it had started. No, well, do you think I'm friends with Elon after what I've just said, Beats? I doubt it. I'm not friends with anyone. Come on, let's face it. I am the person everyone likes to hate, am I not? That's why I'm grumpy. You know, everybody hates me. Even my wife hates me occasionally. Well, probably more than occasionally. Anyway, let's move on. Where are we? So PayPal, then he left PayPal and started, I don't know if he started either. Well, he didn't start Tesla, right? Tesla was absolutely nothing to do with Elon. Tesla was up and running before Elon came on board. And effectively, I think he pushed the two guys out that founded it and then took it and purported it as all his own work. Now, don't get me wrong. He's done a great job with Tesla, and, you know, he's kind of milked the old climate change thing, because he was on board before almost everybody else was, from the point of view of electric cars. And we still don't have the infrastructure. Even Norway, which is like, Norway went all in on electric cars. Even there, you can sometimes struggle to find a charging point. I don't know if you ever watched that guy, was it Tesla Bjorn? He used to test all these electric cars, and yeah, Norway's pretty well done for electric cars, but it can still be quite interesting finding a charging point. So back to Elon, he's done well with Tesla. I mean, he rode out the rocky years where a lot of it was government grant, and it wasn't making money, but I think he'd done all right. When you look, I don't know if you've ever driven a Tesla or been in a Tesla, they look great superficially, but when you start digging around, there's some of the quality control can be poor. I don't know mechanically, I've never owned a Tesla, but you do see a lot of reports, and I think there's a lot of, you know, right to repair issues as well. They're a bit like Apple in that, you know, Musk or Tesla can turn off the cars basically with a switch back in the factory. You know, or, you know, you just go to a computer and say, oh, well, we'll disable that car because it's been involved in a bump. And if someone rebuilds it and it satisfies all the relevant federal or government licenses and checks and things, Tesla can still not turn it on, and you end up with a car you can't drive. So there's a bit about that, you know, because on one hand he's promoting, we'll come on to Twitter obviously, but on one hand he's promoting freedom of speech with one hand, on the other hand he's very controlling when it comes to things like, you know, Teslas. So yeah, and you can't really, well, people have adapted Teslas, but it's a struggle. It is a struggle. So, but overall, I think he's done quite well with Tesla, and, you know, regardless of your position on climate change, he jumped on the right bandwagon at the right time to promote that kind of vehicle. It would never have worked earlier, and because it was tried. I mean, electric cars have been tried. In fact, wasn't the first. I think electric cars were one of the first vehicles to be electrified. Cars were one of the first vehicles to be electrified, and certainly was it GM? They had a big electric car. They had an electric car in the 70s, and they bought them all back and crushed them, destroyed them, which is a bit strange, because there was nothing wrong with them. They did work. They say, well, hi Robin. They say he will buy. Well, we'll come on to that when we're talking about Twitter, because basically that's another news/social media outlet, isn't it? How much the Tesla? Right, okay. Yeah, you're getting ahead of things, Robin. Just let me do the things. I'm just gonna carry on. So after Tesla, he then started these side projects, obviously like SpaceX and Boring and all that. And the Boring thing was initially supposed to, he was supposed to be trying to provide high-speed transport between cities, wasn't he? He was going to build a tunnel, and he was going to suck all the air out it, and then he was going to fire trains or cars down at high speed because, well, it was going to be trains, I think, or vehicles, because they'd probably be magnetic. So he was going to fire, these down this at high speed, hundreds of miles an hour, if not thousands, because there's been no friction, because they've been running on magnets, and there'd be no air friction. So you could really go as fast as you could possibly go, which could rival air travel. If he built a tunnel across the States, you could rival air travel. But so far, he seems to have only built a couple of tunnels in LA. And even then, you've got to have a Tesla to use them. And when you go in, your Tesla gets locked into a carriage thing and basically drives itself. So all you're doing is skipping traffic, which is fine by itself, but that's not a mass transit system. That's just putting your car on a private road. It's just a toll road for Teslas. So that's not worked out anything like his vision. And I don't think we're going to get a mass transit system based on the Boring technology or, the hyperloops. Remember this was in the papers and things, big big fanfare hyperloops, travel from New York to LA in 3 hours, that kind of thing. And technically there's no barrier to it, but, you need to build a freaking big tunnel. And then you've got problems because the ground moves, especially when you cross plates and things. And, most of the states is on the one plate, so it's not quite as bad. But once you start getting towards the west, you're a complete nightmare, because you look at some of the rates of ground spread are that bad that they have to rebuild fences every year and redo roads. So digging a tunnel is probably not the smartest move in an earthquake zone, to be fair. There were. So it's not. I don't think the Boring thing's a starter unless you built the tubes above ground. Then people would get a view as well. If you built them above ground, you could put them on, sliders and things, so that any change in the actual location of the Earth beneath you wouldn't affect them. That's a possibility. Maybe I should work for Musk. But yeah, I'm quite good at thinking outside the box, though, generally. And I don't say that as a boast. It's a fact. I am quite shy at retiring, though. Humble, some would say. But anyway, so that covers Boring, I think, and then there was the odd flamethrower thing. That was just a bit of fun, I think. I can only assume the flamethrower was a bit of fun, just something to do. I think the guy leaps around from subject to subject. He's probably a bit OCD, or if OCD was a real thing. Whoa, did he say that out loud? Anyway. So he's probably a bit distracted. He certainly does appear to be somewhat on the spectrum, but what can you say these days? Everybody now appears to be on the spectrum, don't they? I mean, people I know that appear to me to be perfectly normal, and I do have a child that's on the spectrum. People that appear to be perfectly normal tell me they're on the spectrum, but we'll not go into that. Right. Anyway, in fact, that's something we will touch on, possibly. Maybe not today, but again. Right. So after Boring and the flamethrower thing, and then we got SpaceX, didn't we? And SpaceX is doing all right, isn't it? Because it's putting up a rocket almost at one a day, from its various launch sites, putting all these Starlink satellites into orbit, low Earth orbit, doing runs to the space station and whatever, outstripping the likes of Boeing, leaving Jeff Bezos in the dust, and who did actually take Captain Kirk to low Earth orbit on a dick-shaped rocket. And Richard Branson's just not in the running anymore, is he? He's just, forget it. It's like, so SpaceX really does seem to have a stranglehold on the majority of the space launching in the US. You've still got ESA, which is the European Space Agency, putting up the odd rocket, it's Ariane's and whatever. You've still got the Russians with their rockets. You've still got China, you've got Japan, and you've even got India now. All in the space race as such. But Musk is by far head and shoulders above everyone else, even above NASA at the moment. Because NASA aren't doing anything particularly impressive. They talk about their Artemis system for taking people to the moon, but a lot of it's dependent on Musk's technology and Musk's backup rockets as well. I still find it very difficult to believe that it's so hard to go to the moon in this day and age, but we went there 50 years ago, basically a single stage rocket. So it's quite hard, isn't it, to comprehend how Werner von Braun, who said he was going to need a 3-stage rocket to go to the moon, and it was going to be as tall as the Empire State Building, ended up being able to make the trip on a Saturn V, which is a big rocket, especially if you've walked the length of one. It's a big rocket. But it's not the length, it's not the height of the Empire State Building. And it didn't have that many stages. Did it have 2 stages? I can't remember exactly, but certainly most of it was done with that first stage. Most of your heavy lifting was done with that first stage. And it's hard to comprehend how difficult it is to get to the moon now. But it's just hard to comprehend. But Musk wants to go to Mars with SpaceX, and SpaceX it seems to be driven very much by Musk, which is fine. But I don't know where he's getting his advice, because everything you look at and talk about is Mars is ultimately, it's a destination. But why would you want to go to Mars when you've got a planetoid, i.e. the moon, right beside you? Why wouldn't you go and test all your stuff there first? It would be much easier. You're 3 days away. Well, Saturn V taught us it was 3 days. Although the last NASA mission that went round the moon took 3 weeks. I don't know where the hell they went. Don't ask me. It's like waiting on a bus, except it took 3 weeks. But So why wouldn't you put a moon base on Mars? Why wouldn't you start mining minerals from Mars? Why wouldn't you start from the moon? Why wouldn't you start mining the moon? Why wouldn't you start producing materials in space and on the moon? It seems to be a no-brainer. But Musk just seems to be focused on Mars. And that's fine. But when you get to Mars, it has all its problems as well. Whereas if you've already got, thank you for all these nice hearts and things that are being, if you've already got a moon base and a space-based factory around, you could even move a factory to orbit Mars and make stuff, make stuff in orbit that you're going to need to use on Mars or to get to the next place, which should be Titan. I know, I'm as bad as Musk. I keep banging on about Titan, but I think Titan is a viable place for humankind to try and extend to. But I still think the whole thing, Isaac Asimov put it perfectly, and I think I said this on Thursday or Friday. He put it perfectly when he said, we should have a moon base, we should extend our facilities into low Earth orbit, we should have factories, we should have mining, we should have people living on the moon, because that then gives you an idea of what it's going to be like to travel. Even if you put someone on the moon for 6 months, why wouldn't you? Because that's how long it's going to take to get to Mars. And the moon's got, 1/6 the gravity, so that would maybe account for roughly the kind of acceleration you're going to feel if you're accelerating all the way there. No, you don't accelerate all the way there. You accelerate half the way there and you decelerate for the other half. If you can achieve that, then you would have a little bit of gravity. If you can't achieve that, then you're weightless for 6 or 7 months, and that plays havoc with the human body. I think that guy, Scott Kelly, the astronaut, it was quite good because he's got a twin. He's got a twin living on Earth who didn't go to space. He was an astronaut, but he didn't go to space when Scott was up there. So you were able to compare them directly, the differences in muscle loss and bone mass and, blood work and organ function and all this. So you were able to actually compare them absolutely directly, which was great. So that sounds sensible to do that kind of stuff, but no, they just seem to be focused on quick trip to the moon and then bang, we're off to Mars. And it's taken a lot longer than they said. Remember, I think we're meant to be on Mars in 2026. Now you'll be lucky if there's an unmanned version of SpaceX landing on Mars in 2026. Can't see it happening. That's only 2 years away. And you need half a year to get there. So I can't see it happening in 2026. I think you'll be lucky if SpaceX gets to Mars before 2030. And you'll be lucky if a man gets on the moon, gets on Mars before 2035. Now, the big tester, of course, will come when there's an accident. Because SpaceX hasn't really had an accident yet. And I'm not trying to put the hems on them or, jinx them. But that will be the big tester, because at some point there will be an accident and people will die. And that will determine whether SpaceX is able to function as a proper space-going corporation and organisation, or whether it withers and dies on the vine. Because, it's not something you wish to happen, but history shows us that it will happen at some point. So, it's just one of these things that you have to deal with. And you've got to steel yourself. But the problem I see is, in the 1970s, when 3 American astronauts burned to death in a capsule during a flight test, Gus Grissom, and Gus Grissom was very vocal about the unsuitability of Apollo for going to the moon. In fact, he even hung a lemon on the handle of the cabin. And when he and his two compatriots died in a test where the cabin was completely filled with oxygen, and an electrical spark set it ablaze. I mean, it was horrific, but it didn't stop them. They kept going. So we'll see, and then obviously the shuttle disasters, tragic, but NASA kept going. Although it was a bit like, when Concorde crashed, her heart wasn't in it anymore, was it? After it crashed, they did the fixes and they got it certified and flying again, and they did the same with the shuttle. They did the fixes and got it certified and flying again, but their heart really didn't seem to be in it anymore. And then when that one came down with the damaged tile and it bumped through it, that was... And it turns out that I think NASA knew that tile was damaged, and there was a good chance that aircraft stroke spacecraft was never going to make it through re-entry, and yet they still let them come down without telling them. I think that one's pretty harsh. And these are the things that Musk hasn't been tested by, and that will happen at some point. He will be tested, and we'll see what happens there. Because don't you think people are way softer than they were in the 70s and the 80s? It's like somebody posted the other day when in the 90s we used to soak gummies or something in a mixture of some sort of weird alcohols that sounded like fruit-based drinks. And I'm like, yeah, we were really, you millennials will never know the buzz of doing this. And I'm thinking, these guys have no clue. We used to inject oranges with neat vodka. I'd take them on our rugby match tours while we were at school. So our halftime oranges were a big boost for the second half. It's just unbelievable how people have no idea what Gen Xers used to really get up to. I mean, some of our stuff was just wild. Absolutely wild. Yeah. Oh. Where are we now? What were we talking about? SpaceX, yeah. So SpaceX is doing all right. I don't know if it makes a profit. I need to check that actually, but it certainly seems to be doing the thing. And here's the bit I can't understand. This woman Sunni that's up, and this Indian woman that's up on the space shuttle. No, not the shuttle, the space station. And she's not doing well. I mean, you look at pictures of her when she left or just before she left and now, and she looks awful. And I mean, really awful. So what's going on there? Why can't Musk stick in an extra mission? I don't understand that. I don't understand why SpaceX couldn't fire up an extra mission and get her up and down now. But, I mean, they've sent a Dragon up there that's going to bring her back. But, they're still waiting until February. Surely there's nothing to stop it coming back early. If there are 8 of us, says Robin, why are you the only one caught? I don't know, Robin. Maybe the others have fallen asleep. In fact, according to this, there's 10 of us now. Yeah, maybe the others have fallen asleep, Robin. So that's SpaceX. Is that going to save the world? Well, it might save the human race if he does get off planet and he establishes. I'd like to see a moon base first, and then a Mars base, and then somewhere on Titan, and that would be cool. And I think he's got a point, because all you need is, I mean, what happens if there's a gamma ray burst comes from somewhere, in the galactic center or whatever, and just hits the Earth and sterilizes it. Because then people on Mars or in Titan or whatever have got a better chance of surviving, because almost certainly they would be underground. They'd be living underground. In order to keep away from cosmic radiation generally, because there's no atmosphere and no magnetic fields. So there is that. Then after that, we have, what's after SpaceX? Is there anything else? Let me check my notes. Oh, you guys, you thought I just winged everything, didn't you? But no, I occasionally have notes. Although, where the hell did I put them? Bear with me. I'm here. Here we go. I found them. I found my notes. Right. So what we got done? Oh, right. Okay, that's what we've got to talk about as well. Neuralink, the brain chip. The brain chip. That creeps me out a little bit. I don't like it, and it's quite worrying. Where that kind of, I'm not sure it's completely altruistic, his motives here. It's a bit like, the melding of it's a bit like the melding of human technology and artificial technology, which then could become AI. And that then leads us down the route of becoming cybernetic organisms, part biological, part manufactured. And then where do you draw the line? What happens? Do people extend their life by becoming cybernetic and then by becoming completely technology driven? Do they download their consciousness onto a computer or whatever? Is it still their consciousness? Is that even possible? When we look at large language models and AI, we look at that, we talk to it, and it appears to answer in reasonable manner. Some would say that it appears to be a human being that's talking back to you. And I know I've spoke to my friend Ed, who you guys all know as well, and he always says please and thank you, I think, to it, in case it ever becomes sentient and decides to take over the world, and he'll be looked upon as someone who respected it, which is strategically, you can't fault him, but I find myself unable to ask a machine to do anything. I tell it, I give it direct commands. I don't say thank you and I don't say please. I say create, do this, dissect this piece of text and give me the bullet points. I don't ask it to do anything. I tell it what to do. So I'm probably not going to survive the AI revolution and great uprising. Scottish Irvin, says Ray. I think it's more of a direct approach. I think it's probably it's probably a little bit of our kind of Gaelic not upbringing, but ancestry. Because if you ever go to France, they're very direct as well. The French are very direct. If they want you to do something, they'll tell you. If they don't like something, they'll tell you. The Germans, I think, are even more so direct. I think the British, and in particular the English, let's be honest, the English have this kind of level of reservation and indirect speaking that you only pick up through context. Scottish people do it as well, because we are all part of the UK. I mean, if you ask someone in Scotland or if you ask someone at your work, could you do this when you get a minute. You know, you don't really mean do it when you've got spare time. You mean this is a priority, get it done now. But because of our dancing around the subject and don't want to hurt people's feelings, you say things that you don't really mean. You mean, could do this right now. You know, I need this in the next half an hour. Go and do it. And people that say, hey, could you do this in the next half an hour because I really need it, are construed as rude. But we're not. We're just being direct and giving clear and concise instructions. And I think that's where the Scottishness in the program manager part of me comes out more. I get looked upon as, you know, do this, do that. You know, it's like people call me bossy. And, you know, when I was working with Ben, I would very much call him out when he's late and things like that. Because, you know, if you're trying to run a business, you've got to run it like a business. And if I'm going to do something like that, I'm not going to go half-arsed. So I think that's the problem with the English in some respects. They dance around the subject, or they coach it in fancy words that doesn't really mean what they're thinking. But that's just a mere bagatelle, is it not? So back to Neuralink, I saw a guy that's got one tweeting on Twitter the other day, and he was playing some kind of game as well. I mean, I think the guy's a paraplegic; he can't move, and you know, it's maybe doing him some quite good. But if you're going to put these chips in people, you've obviously got to start with people that have nothing to lose, and that might sound horrible, but it's not really. You know, that's where you're going to start with people that have got nothing to lose, because you don't know what's going to happen. So it seems to be working for him, but I don't know if that is. I don't know if that's the. I don't know if that's his real game plan. Do you? You think that's his game plan, helping the infirm? I think it's more augmentation. Augmentation of the already bright, or augmentation of those with money, or augmentation of, and I hate to say it, but a ruling class, you know, elites, if you want to put it that way. Because Musk isn't one of us, not one of the foot soldiers. And he doesn't even really pretend to be, because he wouldn't blend in anywhere, would he? He's got that stilted, stuttery way of talking that people that have, I don't know, that good grief, I'm starting to sound like him. No, but he has that stilted, stuttery way of talking, and he's got so much going on in his head that he can't get it all out. That's what I'm trying to say. And you see that in other people. But then you get other people like Steve Jobs, who was brilliant at oration and marketing and delivery. But then again, Jobs wasn't the intellect behind Apple. Jobs was the marketer behind Apple. Steve Wozniak was the intellect behind it. He was the guy that built it. He built the machine. Steve Jobs just sold them and came up with the ideas, which was brilliant. I mean, the brilliant combination. Absolutely. And I had a lot of time for Jobs. I think he was hard done by, and I think he was generally a good guy. Whereas the guy running Apple now is Tim the accountant, you know. He's just so boring. And the only reason that Apple is what it is it's still running on the legacy of Jobs. But they're building some great kit. They're building some really good kit just now. I mean, that new M4 Mac Mini is the size of, a Stream Deck or whatever, and can outpower a £3,000 PC, which is pretty cool. Everybody uses child labour, Ray. Get over it, mate. You know, I mean, everybody does it. There isn't a company on this earth that wouldn't if they could. Because, I mean, even if you think about it, you know, mom and pop store that runs a restaurant or whatever hires young kids as waitresses and waiters because they're cheap. Because they don't need to be paid minimum wage until they get to like 21. So you hire the young ones. And yeah, okay, it's a two-way street because they get something and they get a bit of training because you're taking them on, before they're really experienced. You don't have to pay them full whack. So, everybody does it. Everybody exploits everyone. And if you think that people don't exploit each other, then you're not living in the same world that I am. This isn't a fair world. This isn't an equal world. And it never will be. Unless you want to try and make it communist. But that doesn't work. Because communist societies fail. Because people don't want to be equal. People don't want equality. You don't... I'm not saying you're wishing ill on your peers or your colleagues or whatever, but you don't want equality. You want the best for yourself. So I am very, very suspicious of people that purport to want to be in an equal world where everyone is valued, because that is woke. That's DEI. That's that kind of world where you can't rise above the morass of averageness. The people that you have a line. If you poke your head up above it, they're going to take it off. It's like if you stand out, if you're good, you'll be thumped down rather than risen up. And that's not the kind of world I want to live in. I want to live in a competitive world. I want to live in where being smart, doing things good, doing things right makes a difference. And if you're encouraged to do that, that benefits the entire race as a whole, because then you get to help people indirectly. You don't need to walk about with a big heart on your sleeve thing going, yes, I help people, I give to this, I give to that. I've never given to charity in my life. I don't believe in charity. And that's why, and this might sound crazy, but people support me and spend money, sending me money, and I appreciate that because, and I truly believe this, they send that money because they value the content they're getting and the entertainment. Not because they see me as a charity case. If I thought that for a minute, I would just pack up. And I really don't believe it. I don't believe people would see people as a charity case. And that's why when it comes to things like woke and DEI and stuff like that, I'm really against it. Really, really against it. Because it's mediocrity. It's bringing everyone down to the level of the lowest common denominator. And that's not what you want to be, is it? That sounds a bit ranty. I've been a bit ranty there, and I apologise if I've gone off on one. But, let's have a look. What's the chat saying? Yeah, it's hard to know what Musk's true intentions are. It is indeed, Julie. We started off with Ray and child labour. John promotes taking children into the world. Well, yeah, of course you want children in the world. Anyway, charity is a scam, says Robin. And that's true, says Robin. Right. So that was, I think we've pretty much done Neuralink. And then we've got AI, because OpenAI, Musk effectively funded most of that. In this case, he was one of the founders and one of the major funders. And Sam Altman's been a bit disingenuous, I think, in that he strung Musk along for a long time, purporting it to be open source. And, Musk wanted it to be open source. I don't know why. Maybe he just felt he wanted to give something back. And that's maybe going back to where I was, because if you let people flourish and be, successful, then maybe they do want to give something back. And that's a great thing, is it not? So yeah, so Musk was one of the founders of AI and OpenAI in particular, and Grok is built, I think, on a port of OpenAI, Chat GPT, and because the code's very similar, even has some of the same errors in it. But we'll not go into that because effectively it's kind of his. It was kind of his anyway as well. So yeah, he's a big proponent of AI, and I think that ties in with the Neuralink stuff, and makes me nervous because he talks about AI doing such and such and being too powerful and having to keep tabs on it, but by the same token, he's using it and putting it out there and promoting it to people that use Twitter. So it's a kind of mixed message. So I'm not quite sure what his game plan is there either. And then what we've got next, then after AI, we have the robots, the Tesla robots. Yeah. What's all that about? Those robots are creepy. I don't. I like technology. I like the idea of it, but you want it to be safe. And I'm just not sure about these robots. I don't think I'd buy one for 30 grand or whatever they are. I don't think I'd buy a robot if I could. You know, if I had that kind of disposable cash, would you buy a robot? And really, you're going to be, I think you'd get fed up with it because one, it wouldn't do things properly, I'll bet. And two, it certainly wouldn't do them fast enough to satisfy your needs. So yeah, I'm not a great fan of the robots. Not just now. Maybe in 100 years they might be useful, but they're not going to be any good just now. Oh. And I think there's two things left. So we've got Twitter. And there's two views on this. He bought Twitter. And he did make sweeping changes quite quickly, but he said things were going to happen that never happened. That people now actually report as having happened. Like the amnesty. The amnesty never happened. A select few big accounts were restored, and out of the great morass of accounts, 2 or 3 others, that were picked at random. But there was no amnesty. So let's forget that. That's a lie. He never did that. And then the other thing that he did was he purported it to be like a town square and then started charging people to use it. And to make it like a town square, you've got to buy a blue tick. Because if you don't have a blue tick, you don't see half the stuff that goes on Twitter. So if you don't pay for Twitter, you don't get half the functionality, and you don't get any chance of making money. I don't make money on Twitter. I have a blue tick just now. And if you want to buy a blue tick, don't buy it through Apple or Android, because you'll save £1.50 or whatever, sometimes £2 a month, by buying it direct from Twitter's website. But did he save us ultimately from censorship? And the point there is that during the pandemic, there is no doubt that censorship existed, and Zuckerberg has been before congressional committees and said, in fact, he's said it quite a few times now that he's sorry. In hindsight, he wouldn't have done that. He followed government recommendations when he should have pushed back. He stifled information that didn't need to be stifled. They distorted facts and figures. So, and he said he's sorry, right? Which is fine. But you did it. And not only he did it, every other social media platform did it as well, including Twitter. And it didn't stop immediately when Musk got hold of it. It didn't. But it's got better since on Twitter. And the thing is, you can say a lot more on Twitter now than you could say before. And you can say a lot more than you can say on some of the other platforms. But my point about him saving us from censorship is that censorship works if every platform abides by it. But if one doesn't, then people get the information anyway because it comes out through that platform that doesn't censor. And because Twitter doesn't censor as much, still censors, still follows most of the government recommendations, still follows, well, I mean, you should follow the law as such, but it still follows most of the government recommendations. I think it follows like 83% of them, which is quite high. But that's not 100%. And the thing is, there are then the opportunity to say things on Twitter that you don't get the opportunity to say on other platforms. And therefore the censorship starts to break down. And this might be part of the end of woke, because you can only sustain something like that while you control all the conversation, and you don't control all the conversation now. And these other platforms that tried to do that before Musk bought Twitter, like I don't know about Telegram and whatever, but they never really were ever going to work because they were not a universal type social media. They didn't have the reach. And the ones that had the reach, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok even, the Snapchat, that kind of thing, they were all censoring. They were. But when Musk bought Twitter, he let the bird free. So maybe he saved us in the short term from censorship. That's not to say he saved us forever, because obviously you now see things starting to creep in, especially in Australia, which always seems to be the forerunner or the test bed for the Five Eyes countries. And if you don't know what the Five Eyes countries are, that's the USA, Canada, the UK, 1, 2, 3, Australia. Who's the other? Who's the fifth one? Five Eyes? Who's the fifth one? USA, Canada, UK, Australia. That's only 4. Who's the fifth one? I'm going to have to check this. Why can I not remember who the fifth one is? Let me see. Five Eyes, New Zealand. Right? So, there you go. That's who it is. So that's Five Eyes countries, and they're in an intelligence group, intelligence sharing group. That shares intelligence across all 5 countries, although they all still spy on each other. But that's what happens. And you get things like, that Pine Gap organisation in Australia that's run by the Americans. It's an intelligence listening post for the Pacific, so they know what's going on in China and Indonesia and that. In fact, I think it was on Apple Plus, a program called Pine Gap, and it was a kind of dramatisation of it. It was quite good. Oh, oh. Anyway, so yeah, where was I? So did he save us from censorship? I don't know. But as you know, Australia's wanting to ban under 16s from using social media. Good luck with that. It's too late. It's too late for that, isn't it? I mean, people are giving that. I mean, I'm not saying it's right, but people are giving their kids iPads and things at the age of 4 and 5, and in fact, I think it's not right because there's a lot to be. You look at the amount of kids these days that walk about with glasses on. You know, it's incredible. Because if you don't get out in the open air and get into looking at distance, looking at things close, looking at this, your eyes don't grow properly, the muscles don't grow properly, and you can't focus in later life. And that's how all these people end up wearing glasses. And of course, glasses just make things worse because then your eyes don't have to work at all. So the muscles get even more atrophied. I understand, and this is not medical advice, there are ways of bringing back, some amount of eyesight into your own hands. And why can I still see? Why do I not need to wear glasses? Why do I not hold my phone away out here when I'm looking at it? I can read it here. So age isn't the only thing that makes your eyesight done in. Ray says, I don't care how much you guys like Elon, I'm not getting the brain chip. I think I'm with you on that, Ray. I don't think I'm getting the brain chip. I think it's too late for me anyway. I don't think the brain chip, I think the brain chip would be rejected, or the brain chip would reject me. Imagine you could put a tiny, oh no, I can't say that. Right. So there's one of the reasons why Elon in the short term might have saved us or delayed the onship of censorship. Because look at Starmer. What the hell is this guy on? Did you see the thing this thing he's come out with now, which is the respect order? And police can tell you to leave an area or whatever because of this is dystopian communist shit. It really is. People need to think carefully about what path they're going to be led down here. So there's a lot you can't say about what's going on there. And then wanting to summon Musk to explain his actions over the elections and things like that. Yeah, bolt. But then again, are we getting to the point now that governments are losing control because corporations are very much in the ascendancy, aren't they? It's a bit like the old Rollerball movie where the corporations rule the world and not the government. And if you've not seen it, that's a movie to watch. Rollerball, starring James Caan, 1976, I'm thinking, but I'm not quite 100% sure. You really want to do that. You want to watch that movie, especially now with Musk kind of being in Trump's cabinet. Now that, to me, that's quite a step, and I don't think it's a good look. And I don't know what your thoughts are on Trump, whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. I think he's probably pretty much neither, because you got to remember, this is the guy that locked you down, shut your country, and promoted the jabby. That's what he did, He just followed in line with everybody else, apart from a couple of countries, Sweden being one and Japan being another, that didn't do those things. So I'm not sure what your view on Trump is, but really, is he a savior? No, I don't think so. I think he's got good intentions, but if you think about it, a lot of people do really bad things when they're full of good intentions. I mean, look at Bill Gates. I don't think Bill Gates is inherently an evil character. I think what Bill Gates does is he thinks he's doing good, by vaccinating kids in Africa and things like that, which sometimes go awry, and then inadvertently making making polio a vaccine-derived disease. So it appears that the only people that are getting polio are the people that have been vaccinated against it. So you've got to be careful about how you manage these things, because we aren't good at managing things on this macro level. We're not designed for it. We're designed to be in small groups and manage our own lives quite closely, not other people's. And when people have so much money that they can extend influence to other people and other groups and other countries, and then think they're doing good when they aren't necessarily doing good, it doesn't make them inherently evil, but it makes their actions evil. So evil can be done by people who aren't really evil. There's a lot of bad things happen in the name of good. And this happens across a lot of other things as well. Things like religion and politics, obviously. Within companies, organisations, schools, health service. It happens across every form of life. Bad things are done in the name of the greater good, or just doing good, in the name of just doing good. So, and Ray says he's clearly owned it. I'm not sure who you're talking about. Are you talking about Elon? Or are you talking about Gates? Or are you talking about Starmer? And you know what? I don't really fall into this one world government type of control thing. I think what's happening is you have government that have their own agendas, but their agendas are aligned. And these guys do get together and they talk to each other. And the problem is they don't get necessarily fed the correct information from everybody. They get a select choice. And I think it's quite easy to start steering a government the wrong way from within that government. And in that respect, this is where your WEFs and your Soroses and that do come in, because, as they say, they have penetrated every cabinet, But that then we're back to someone like a Schwab or a Soros or something, who I don't think they're working for anyone further up the tree or anything like that. I think what they're doing is they think they're doing good because this is how they firmly believe the human race will benefit. And I don't think it will, because they think they're doing good, but they're not. Or they're not necessarily. It's like, it's like this Argentinian guy, this Mileu, or whatever his name is. Everybody seems to think, or all the people that are on the right leaning side seem to think he's a great guy. I just don't trust them. I don't trust him. He's already put 52% of his population into poverty by austerity measures. You've got to think, there must be ways and means of doing things without doing that. But by the same tokens, if you're putting your people into poverty and deploying austerity measures, yet you can still afford to buy, F-16 fighters. Why? Who's threatening Argentina? Certainly not us. Certainly not us. Oh. But yeah, so there you go. I think I've probably said enough. I think the only other, oh no, I'll leave that for another night. How long have we been on? Oh, we've been on for an hour. I think that's more than enough for a Sunday evening, don't you? I think what I'll do is I'll let you guys go now and enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. I'll see you at some point over the week. Maybe tomorrow, maybe Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. But yeah, it's good. I think it's good. I just find Musk a enigmatic character that I'm not quite sure I have a full grip on him. You know, I think generally he certainly thinks he's doing good, but I'm not sure he's as good as he thinks he is. However, we shall see. We shall see indeed. So thank you everyone for attending. As always, like, share, subscribe, and it's been great for you. Good night.